It is still September 23rd, and I accidentally forgot to upload a clip and give myself more space to talk about what I was just talking about, which is the police. So, and I got my coffee because I'm a little bit tired already. At any rate, so basically Sergeant Austria knew that there was a way for him to confirm whether or not what I said was true. So then I found out that this report was hastily rushed off to the prosecuting attorney, which was Michael Schrunk. And I don't know if he had a different associate review it, but Michael Schrunk was the same person who sent me information after I was held hostage in St. John's several years earlier. I mean, a decade earlier. And that was a situation where I was told not to talk to the media, don't tell anybody what happened, which is kind of weird. And then nobody took my statement then either. You know, I went to the prosecuting attorney. It was a woman. I mean, Michael Schrunk signed off on it, but the woman who was doing the investigation didn't want my comments or statement. So, and that was when I was held hostage with 2 other roommates. So anyway, 10 years later, I am getting this letter from the Portland PD after Sergeant Austria screwed it up deliberately. And I then called their offices because I thought I did want to take advantage of victims' resources and counseling and maybe compensation or something. I mean, and they had such a thing, and I hadn't taken advantage of it when I was held hostage, so why wouldn't they do that after I was raped? And even if they didn't press charges or the prosecuting attorney decided against it, they still had a duty to offer services to somebody who was a rape victim or a sexual assault victim or whatever. And I called the victims' advocates with the Portland PD, and they were horribly rude to me. Every single person who took my call was really hostile and treated me very badly, and they basically refused to give me any kind of services whatever with victims advocacy. It was like somebody blacklisted me so that I couldn't get any services, and I was defamed. So already people who didn't even know me had this really poor opinion of me because they believed what the Willamette Week was saying about me. They believed, you know, this crappy report that Sergeant Austria wrote. And I then asked Austria, I asked him to send me a copy of the report because I had a right as the victim to have a copy of the file and report. He refused to send it. I asked him several times. I asked him as many times as I asked for, almost as many times as I asked for FBI FOIA. He never sent it to me ever. I never got anything in the mail. Didn't matter if I emailed him, which I did. It didn't matter if I sent him a professional release and request. Didn't matter if I talked to him on the phone. He refused to send it to me. And then after I was out of money and I really had nothing, he said if I wanted a copy of the file, I'd have to pay for it. And he was charging some horrible, not normal fee for the report, which he knew I couldn't afford. I was on state assistance, $400. Most of that went towards my rent. And I had a child, and then we had $200 on food stamps, and my hope was to get back into college because that was the only way that I could really support myself and my son until I had work. And at that time I couldn't work because of the medical injuries. So it was easier for me to have some flexibility with college and being able to sit or stand or do whatever, and then still have my son with me at home. So anyway, so basically I found out right after he did this favor for the FBI and probably for the police, because as long as they kept discrediting me, he was doing favors for the Portland PD as well, because the Portland PD already had a lot of problems and things that they'd done wrong. I mean, not all of them, but some of their officers had done some wrong, bad things. So after he did this, it was within a couple weeks to a month. It was almost right after he did this favor for others. he was promoted, and he went from being in charge of the sexual assault unit to being in charge of the murder unit. So let's think about this. Do you really want somebody who deliberately tampers with witness statements to be in charge of your murder section? I mean, is that what the FBI is, rubbing their hands together excitedly over? Think about it. Anybody who has been murdered and had their case go to Austria or not go to Austria, my sympathies go out to you. And anybody who is a criminal, I don't trust him, whether it's somebody that they're trying to frame for a murder, and I don't trust him whether it's somebody who is a victim of a murder, because he's a dishonest man. And if he tampered with my witness statement for sexual assault and for a favor and a promotion and raise, he will tamper with murder cases. And that's the kind of system that we have going on in Portland, Oregon. So I tried to go to this community action thing that they have set up where they investigate police officers for corruption. Well, that Portland group, whoever they are, they're all connected to the police anyway, because nobody did anything about my report. And right about the time that I started making that report and trying to go somewhere with it, and I was starting to go somewhere with the Office of the Inspector General to report the FBI, that's about the time that my son and I were then being brutally tortured and basically forced to leave the country. So yeah, good luck. Good luck with your murders and cracking the case on the murders. Good luck with justice in Portland murder cases. Good luck, Sergeant Austria, with your reputation. So I tried to find out where this horrible man is coming from. I didn't know what kind of religion he was from. I didn't know if he was Catholic that hated me. I didn't know if he was Jew that hated me. I didn't know if he was just down and dirty, corrupt Protestant that wanted to do something for his sons and his kids and wanted to get ahead in life. But I think that what I found out, but it might be wrong, I think I found out he's possibly Mormon or Protestant. I think possibly Protestant. And it really doesn't matter. I mean, it's interesting to find out, because it helps me to know who might be connected to who. And, church circles are like any other group. Looking at that also helps you figure out, well, who knows who. However, if he's Protestant and he did that, then he's a bad Protestant. He's not a Christian. He's a criminal. So I think that's all I need to say about that. He did what he did. I can prove that he did what he did. And he put me in a worse standing with police and law enforcement and the justice system. So while he was doing that with the FBI, I was having all these car vandalisms. And mainly, I don't believe it was because of Sergeant Austria. I believe that it was people from Oregon trying to help people in Washington. So they carried over the same tactics and the same religious hate crime that they used there over to this state. And basically, their objective was to keep me out of money. First, they made sure I didn't have $50,000 from my PIP through Gerald Warren, and that I was out of college. And then I think their main concern was the idea that, what if I got money for medical malpractice, which really occurred against me and my son? I had a very good case. It wouldn't have been hard to prove. I had a lot of documentation by the time I was looking at a law firm. And I think that in anticipation of a lawsuit and my coming into money, people were afraid that I'd go back and try to revive some of my other lawsuits, so they were just afraid of my having more power by having more independence and having financial means to do something about what was going on. You know, it's like if I had already been talking to Krista Schneider before I even had my son about leaving the country. Of course I could leave the country if I had a substantial settlement from medical malpractice as well. So they basically wanted to keep me trapped in one place without any money. And people were committing crimes to do this. So, as I said, this Italian-American man who was a doctor, whose wife was, or whose girlfriend was a nurse in oncology. He, for whatever reason, I think I need to change something for a minute. Okay, I think that's much better. Kind of cutting off my forehead here, but it bothers me that I can't see my chin, and I don't know what is going on with this camera, but before it was a lot further back and not right up here in my face and videotaping everything in my face. But anyway, I just need to drink a coffee for a minute. To guzzle it because I don't have time to sip. Alright, so where was I? Yes, talking about the Italian-American who raped me, with police standing by. When that occurred, I look back at the other places that I was then quote-unquote banned from in Washington State, and most of the individuals that were involved in banning me were Italian-American from Seattle, and then federally connected individuals. So Malcolm Butler was federally connected, and he got his lawyers involved, and they decided to ban me to make me look bad from their clinic after all these weird things were happening there. And then Central Washington Hospital decided that since I'd had the birth there, which, you know, also makes them liable because they didn't do what they were supposed to do and bringing in an OBGYN for the C-section, that kind of thing, they banned me. And and then I was banned from the Coast Hotel, which is one of the main larger hotels in Wenatchee, and it is owned by an Italian-American from Seattle. And he's the person who told these employees to tell me that I was banned, and that police in the area were saying I was a prostitute, which I wasn't. But you know, the police prostitute themselves over there, and have been prostituting themselves and trying to rape me for a very long time, and covering up rape. So I guess that's what they wanted to say. But yes, I was banned from, I don't know the name of the Italian man offhand. I looked it up once. From Seattle, but it's an Italian-American man. If he knows this Italian-American doctor who raped me, it might have something to do with it. The other Italian-American man who banned me from the WorkSource place, which is a government facility, it's a state facility where you can get on your feet and look up things to help you find work, was a man named Lee, and he was Italian-American and part of some Italian-American club. After my son was taken away from me, an individual who I'd never met in my life before, who was there along with CPS and had a very strong interest in harming my son and I, was a man named Tony Block, who was Italian-American.